Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Florida Senior Living Association's Coffee Break. We're excited about today. We have Steve Shaw from Hotwire Communications, along with Nicole Bosco from Discovery Village at Sarasota Bay. Hotwire Communications is a fiber optic, internet, television, telephone, telecommunications company in the senior living industry. They are the only major telecommunications company in the country with a dedicated senior living division, gearing their technology and, more importantly, their customer service specifically to older residents in independent and assisted living communities. Hotwire was founded in South Florida, and has grown to become the nation's largest privately held internet service provider to community living, whether that's assisted living, independent living, community, they're there. So today, please welcome the Vice President of Senior Living for Hotwire Communications, Steve Shaw.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you.
Steve, we're excited about today. We're still letting people in here. If I'm looking off to the right, just so people know, they're continually joining. So, Steve, I guess biggest question: if Hotwire is the only major telecommunications company with a senior living division, why establish that? Why did Hotwire decide to do that?
Our company was founded about 25 years ago, and as you mentioned, with a focus on community living environments, serving them with high-speed internet, telephone, television services via our own fiber optic network. And what we found was, over the years, as many of these residents transitioned from these community living environments, HOAs, condos, they began moving to independent or assisted living facilities and began to ask where is Hotwire? We're used to this technology. It's high speed, it's dependable. We're used to the customer service side of what Hotwire has always been very proud and very it's part of our DNA. And so they started asking for us, and then we suddenly discovered after a number of years that we had about 35 senior living facilities just in the state of Florida. Then we began expanding into Georgia and California and some of the other states that we serve. And so it began to grow, and then we realized that there was a true market, because senior living is different. It's different from an HOA or a condo association. And so that's sort of how the genesis happened.
Definitely. And that is only one division of Hotwire. What other types of customers might you serve?
Well, again, about 90% of our business is in the HOA and condo market, so to speak. Obviously, that's big here in the Southeast, but elsewhere across the country as well. We tend to serve higher end communities that want that extra degree of customer service. And again, when it came to senior living, it was merely a question of how can we adapt the programs and policies that we have in place to meet the specific needs of seniors.
Absolutely. And it's kind of scary to think about this, but we're in 2026 now, and internet, all that has been around for roughly 30 some years now. Do you think we're giving enough technical credit to residents nowadays?
Well, I think when you start thinking about it, the average senior, whether they're an independent or assisted living, has basically been on a computer for 35 years. So oftentimes we don't give them enough credit that they do have a certain level of technical knowledge and technical comfort. But we realize that seniors are also looking for that added touch. When there's a problem, they want someone to respond. They want a real person to respond, as opposed to having to call some 800 number and be on hold for 2 hours. So most definitely, there is a difference between the HOA condo association market and senior living. And we also have to realize that in senior living, we don't necessarily see residents that have a gaming console and 20 internet connected devices that they're dependent on. It's growing. I think the latest statistics I saw were that there were about, the average senior had about 10 to 12 internet connected devices in their unit right now. So we need to recognize that there is a difference in terms of their needs, in terms of their customer service requirements. And again, that's why we really established that dedicated unit.
That's awesome. And we're going to bring in Nicole here. Nicole, thank you for joining us. Nicole Bosco is the executive director at Discovery Village in Sarasota. Known for years with Sarasota's, top-notch facility community for assisted living, memory care, and independent living. The community blends quality, luxury, and affordability to create an outstanding value and lifestyle experience. Hotwire began providing internet and television service in 2019 and with managed Wi-Fi to common areas throughout the community. Nicole, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you here today. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of your community and how and maybe why they chose Hotwire?
Yeah. So we actually started the Hotwire experience for our community in our independent living when we had our new build, which we officially opened in 2022. So we started the contract a little bit earlier than the pre-build. Once the independent living community was well on its way, we realized the value of the service. And so then what we did was we transitioned out the current provider at the time that we had in our assisted living over to Hotwire. And so we started that new agreement with them.
Wonderful. Steve, were you involved in the early days of your partnership?
I was not. I was actually in the residential side of our business. In fact, opening up the Sarasota market. So Discovery Village was actually one of our first properties in Greater Sarasota. Since then, it has grown tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And you spoke briefly about the customer service advantage that Hotwire provides. Is there a unique person to each community that you partner with?
There is. We have a dedicated account manager that's assigned, and it's really one of the big differences between Hotwire and all of our competitors, and that is that there is a dedicated account manager assigned to every property, a person with a real email address, a real phone number that is responsible for servicing. And Nicole, I know you've got one of the best that is assigned to your property. Maybe you can talk a little bit about how Melissa, in this case, services your property and responds to your residents.
Yep, sounds good. So I can tell you, I've been in this industry now for 30 years, and having Hotwire, my relationship with them has been now 3 years. In this specific property. And what I would say is that Hotwire for us, because of our account manager, doesn't feel like a business transaction that we have with a vendor. It actually feels like Melissa, who's our account manager, is really a part of our team. So when I think about, the directors that I hire for specific, roles within the community, and they handle a certain bulk of what we do every day to create an experience for our residents, that's what Melissa does for us. So Melissa is a partner for us. We see her as almost, like a part of our team. And the things that she does, she is very special. I think I don't ever take her from me. She's very special. I will just give you an example. I had a resident up at the front concierge desk. It was not that long ago, and he was frustrated because he could not get Major League Baseball on his television. I, even at 51, not overly techie, I know a little bit. I tried to get him to understand what this was all about and how that happens. He was very frustrated, and I said, you know what? Let me call our account manager. And I knew that I was really kind of going outside of the boundaries of what this service might be, but not for Melissa. It's never. And so I called her, and she said, I got it. Give him my cell phone number. Just have him call me right now. I will help him. And she did. And And that's the experience that we have regularly. That's not an anomaly. That's regularly, whether it's email, phone, or she will text with them. She'll take family member calls. And for those of you that remember the old days of dealing with a company that's not like Hotwire, who doesn't specifically service this population, it's our maintenance technicians, our maintenance director, our concierge, all these team members that are sitting on the phone for literally hours trying to fix a problem that we call an account manager, who's dedicated to our residents and knows our residents. I mean, I had Melissa one day stop by just to meet a resident because they had talked so many times on the phone. She just wanted to put a face with a name. I mean, it's definitely a special relationship, and it's by far a personal experience.
And Lou, I would just say that's not an outlier. I mean, literally every single one of our senior living facilities gets that same level of customer service. We're talking about some of the difference between senior living and our HOA and condo communities. In senior living, and Nicole, you can probably talk about this. You've got transitions. You've got people that are moving in and moving out for one reason or another, obviously. But there's also a question of equipment. When they have equipment that's in their apartment, how does it get returned? And that's one of the functions that our account manager fulfills. Perhaps talk a little bit about that, Nicole.
Yep, absolutely. And so, right, especially this can happen in assisted living, independent living. It's a little bit more planned usually, but you never know. Literally, anybody on this call knows. You could have a move-in today that you don't know is coming. At this point, it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, so that can happen. Or God forbid, somebody passes, and then all of a sudden you've got to get this equipment out of the apartment. Pick up equipment, versus having maybe a grieving family member have to go through bringing all this equipment back to a place. Hotwire will come and pick up the equipment as needed. And then also, I know that if I have a sudden move-in today, I know the service is going to be set up today. And that's because our account manager will work with the technicians, out in the community to get to our community and prioritize that service experience, which we are very grateful for.
And one of the things we also try and do, and it doesn't always work, but I would say 80 to 90% of the time, our technical staff, we like to train technicians specifically in senior living. So we try to assign specific technicians to come into communities every day. And that serves a couple of purposes. One, obviously, they can become familiar with the property itself. They don't have to ask a lot of questions when they get there. But more importantly, and Nicole, you know this more than anybody, seniors like familiar faces. They don't necessarily like to see someone coming into their apartment that they've never seen before. So we try and have that dedicated team of technical resources so that they are seeing the same faces every day, like their account manager. They become friends. They know who they are. It really cuts down the barriers, if you will, between technical service, which, let's face it, it can be a little intimidating when somebody comes into your residence with a tool belt and all sorts of equipment, and they're trying to fix something, and you want to make sure that they're cognizant of what happens inside that senior living property. So it's again one of those different things that we bring to the table because we have that dedicated senior living division.
Yeah, that definitely makes a big difference. And for all those that have joined us today, please feel free to drop any of your questions in the chat. We'll be sure to get those answered with Steve and Nicole. But Steve, I want to go back to to Hotwire's same day installment or technical service. That's pretty impressive. I mean, when you think about it, you always, when you're at home, like maybe 10 years ago, you would always get a call that, we'll be at your place from anywhere between 10 and 4 o'clock. And you're just kind of sitting there waiting, and you can't do anything else because you have to wait for them. How big is the Hotwire network within Florida? How many account managers are there? How are you guys able to react and act so quickly?
Well, again, I mean, within Florida, we have, I believe, about 40 properties in Florida alone. We are, however, a national company. We are in 10 states. We have over 2,000 employees. So we have a real cadre of, well, I say we have a real infrastructure in place. So we're able to call on our HOA and condo association service providers, but we pride ourselves in the fact that they are all employees. And so if we can't service something within our senior living resources, we have the ability to call on our others as well. Want to just get back to that response time. We're one of the very, very few providers that actually puts our customer service promises in writing. So there are service level agreements when a community signs with Hotwire. There are literally pages of service level agreements talking about how fast we will respond to an outage, how fast we will respond to a service request based on the severity of that issue. Talks about how fast, if in fact a resident uses our call centers, and by the way, our call centers are all Hotwire call centers. We don't outsource. They're all U.S.-based call centers. We actually specify within our service level agreement how fast it's going to take us to answer the phone. And right now, I think we promised 90 seconds, but I think we're averaging right around 30 seconds to actually talk to a real person. So again, it's those little things. Our phone customers, for example, we actually put in their phones a speed dial component, so that if we're on a bulk agreement with a property, we will actually install speed dial, so that very much like a hotel, people can literally dial *2 to get the valet or *3 to make a dinner reservation. We'll also do things like call forwarding, where, and again, we program this in advance so that a resident can have their apartment phone ring through to their cell phone. So say again, they're in the dining room having lunch, but they're waiting for a call from the doctor. The doctor calls their main phone number, it rings through to their cell phone, and they're able to talk. So again, little things like that we think make a big difference in senior living.
Absolutely. Yeah. Customer service is always number one. We'll give a few seconds for folks if they have any questions. But otherwise, Steve, thank you for joining us. Nicole, thank you for taking the time to join us. This has been great. We love hearing more about Hotwire and directly from our communities here in the state of Florida. It means a bunch. And we're just glad that both of you joined us today.
Well, I want to thank FSLA in particular. I mean, you guys have been tremendous in terms of your support for us, and we hope to continue to grow with the organization as time goes along.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear that. Thank you, Steve. We'll be sure to share that with everyone here. But until next time, thank you very much for joining us here for FSLA's Coffee Break. We'll see you next time.